Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Happy Monday. Nope, psych. Happy Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025. We were off yesterday for Labor Day. Hopefully you had a wonderful Labor Day with you and yours. A lot of fun, food and festivities with the fam. Yeah, great stuff. And nice 3-day weekend for everybody out there. We are ready to roll. It is a game week. The Buccaneers finally play football on Sunday. And I know if you're like me, you cannot wait. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. The subscriptions are getting higher and higher every single week. I can't thank you guys enough for all the love and the support. Yeah, make sure you can keep contributing. And a big shout out to our sponsor, Honest Hammer Custom Builders right there. Scan that QR code for all your residential and commercial needs. I'm going to actually send out the post later on today. I went to the job site on Thursday. I wanted to wait until Labor Day weekend was over so everybody could see what the deal was. That I wanted to get kind of lost in the kind of the just what was going on Labor Day. Nobody's like paying attention. Everybody's out. So I wanted to make sure to wait till today. So I'll post it after the show today. Our guy Russ and the family over there at Honest Hammer Custom Builders. Again, 813-244-0956. Shout out to him and a shout out to all you if you guys want to contribute via the super chat. $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can do, guys. Contribute to the program. Every little bit helps. That's the only way we're going to keep this thing rolling. I always want to hear from you. Questions, comments, concerns. Leave them there at the bottom of the screen if you want to join in on the conversation. Here is the link. It is in the chat. StreamYard.com/PJ33CHYZUV. And now that I have remembered that, I got to make sure that I send it to our guy, Matt Matera, who's going to be joining us at 1 o'clock today. Here, I'm going to send it here so I don't have to link for today. Link for today, buddy. Started the show. All right. What a crazy ass weekend. These last couple of days have been nuts, haven't they? I mean, just think about all the stories in the sports world. We're going to tackle all of them. Let's read some of these comments because, again, put them there at the bottom of the screen. I want to hear from you. Dave Terry, our guy, he's back on the mainland now. What a weekend. My Knowles won, Liverpool won, and the Rays won 4 in a row. How about those Rays? Time to party, Ben says. Bart Hill in the house. Janet Best, one of the queens of the Recher podcast. Roll Tide, not our guy Dolan. Watching in the UPS truck, listening to Taylor Swift, I'm sure. I'm kidding, buddy. But yeah, a lot to get into today. Let's break down what the schedule's looking like today on the program. We'll get into some Bucs news. They practiced yesterday as we inch closer to the season opener on Sunday against the Falcons at 12:20. Florida State with a big win over Alabama. But if you've been listening to me the last couple of years, you should have seen the fall of the tide coming. This is not a surprise to me, even though it may be a surprise to many others. Alabama, I think they're in big, big trouble. More importantly, Kalen DeBoer in big, big trouble. 12:30, Miami and Carson Beck impresses. Why I'm not worried about Notre Dame, and if somebody can please check on Michael Irvin, that would be great. 12:40, the tenure of one of the worst free agents in Rays history has finally come to a close, but regardless of that, the Rays just keep on winning, so they're still sniffing around. They're not dead yet, but I mean, I'm still not banking on them being able to win or be able to make one of the 3 wild card spots, but kudos to them to not give in and continue to leave it all on the field. 1 o'clock, our guy Matt Matera of Pewter Report joins us to check in on the latest with the Rays and also to preview the upcoming season. 1:25, I'm going to give you 5 minutes on the Micah Parsons trade. Just 5. I don't like talking a lot about the Cowboys, but this is something that I think a lot of people are just forgetting about this entire process. 1:30, Belichick, Brian Kelly, and bashing Arch Manning. That seems to be the popular thing to do over the weekend. More of the college football takeaways, and then at 1:45 before we wrap things up, WWE Clash in Paris, Monday Night Raw reaction as well. Unfortunately, our Tampa Bay Sun could not win over the weekend in their first home game. Our chat with our good pal Jordan Listro, that was a lot of fun. That's up on our page on the YouTube channel. The Rowdies, how about our Rowdies? Big win Saturday night coming down from 1-0. Being able to win 2-1. Really, really good sign there. They needed it. They're only 3 points out of a playoff spot with a game in the hand. Really, really good things from our Tampa Bay Rowdies. And shout out to Nathan Elliott and the whole crew cheering on today. Saturday was our final goodbye to our good friend Tony Saladino. Everybody that was there and everybody that came out, whether it's Friday to the public showing at Bell Shoals, and then Saturday at Nativity, the final goodbye to our good friend Tony Saladino. It was emotional weekend, that's for sure. And then I don't know about you guys, but my phone was down over the weekend. That big power outage for Verizon users all around the country. That was such a pain in the ass. So for the better part of the last 2 days, man, I was really, really struggling. Text not going through. I just, it sucked. It was terrible, man. So yeah, we'll get into a little bit of everything on the program, but we'll start with the Buccaneers and thinking about what they're going to be looking like as we go forward. On Sunday, they'll be facing the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to be wearing the all whites, but I still see so many people not giving the credit to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I still see a lot of people having them in like the teens. I just don't quite understand what more the Buccaneers need to do to really stand out and to be able to set themselves apart from the rest of the teams, not just in the NFL, but in the NFC especially. Like, I don't know how you can have them behind teams out there, especially teams that they've beaten, right? Like, I don't quite get that. And you look at one of their big deficiencies, one of the things that they've been really, struggling with defensively, and how they addressed that defense, how they were able to address Hassan Reddick, right? Bringing in a big-time pass rusher like that. You can call him a mercenary all you want. The guy knows how to get to the passer. You have to look at some of these young players and how they're going to take a step forward, like a guy like Yaya Diaby. You look at the safety position, getting Tyke Smith over there as a tag team partner with Antoine Winfield Jr., Savase Dennis being healthy, and the draft picks with Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish. And it's very strange. And I like Dolan, what you got to say here. I'm fine with people overlooking the Buccaneers. Lady Evil, Nick Wright predicted on national television the Bucs going to the Super Bowl against KC. I like that. Nate Elliott, the Bucs need to shut teams down, not win by a point or two. They need to stifle young QBs and their offenses. I've never seen stifle spelled that way with a Y, but I like it. DT, lack of respect puts a bigger chip on your shoulders. Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's not a good thing, because I think Baker and crew, I think they operate better, right, when they do have that, when they do have somebody that's doubting them. I understand that. But it's still strange to me. It's still strange that people don't want to put respect on this team's name. And when you look at what happened yesterday with the practice and you look at some of the people that have come back, Tyke Smith returns to practice. So that's good for the safety spot. Cade Otton, who I've told you guys many times, he is the clear-cut number 1 tight end. And I don't think that's going to change. And then Sean Tucker back at practice. If you have drafted Bucky Irving in your fantasy football leagues like I have, make sure you handcuff him with Rashad White and Sean Tucker. Have those guys around, because you just never know. You just never know. No Christian Izzy at practice, or Josh Hayes, and Benjamin Morrison still not practicing. So I said this about Benjamin Morrison before the season. When you're already talking about a guy's health before the season has started, that's not good. And especially when you're talking about a rookie like this, dealing with the hip injuries. Everybody keeps saying, oh, well, if he didn't have the hip injury, he would have been a first-round pick. Yeah, okay, that's great. But it doesn't mean anything. I'm dealing with facts, not opinions. I'm dealing with facts. And the fact is that the kid has already had multiple health concerns before he's ever played a snap in the National Football League. So was it a good risk to take? Probably. But I think you're lying to yourself if you don't think that there's some type of concerns when it comes to his status, not just for the beginning. Like, what is it going to be like? What is it going to be like? Dolan, you had his fantasy draft this weekend. You picked Cade Otton. Oh, there you go, buddy. Get Cade Otton in there. You better hope I hope that's not the only guy that you got. You got to. It's tough. The tight end position, there is a precipitous drop off. So unless you get one of the bigger guys, I have George Kittle, but I've had Kittle or Kelsey for I think 8 straight years. Because that was my big thing. If at the end of the 3rd year you got to trade the guy, so I end up trading him. But I think I'm going to try to trade George Kittle for Brock Bowers. That's the guy I'm keeping an eye on. Got to get rid of him right there. Shout out to our guy Chan. Go Knowles. Go Jay Recher podcast. Appreciate you with the super chat. Again, $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, whatever you guys can do. Every contribution helps. Something just made a noise back here. I was like, hello. A little bit of a different setup back here today. We're going to continue to work on that. But thank you, Chan. You are the man. But, fine. Disrespect for the Buccaneers, whatever. It is what it is. But I am keeping a close eye on a guy like Benjamin Morrison. Now, from what Todd Bowles had said yesterday about who could play nickel, could it be a guy like Zion McCollum? Yeah, it could be. So are you more comfortable with a guy like Jacob Parrish on the outside? I think they're comfortable with Parrish forever, but we got to remember he's a rookie. And if we've learned anything after week 1, these things are still moving around back here. If we learn anything from week 1 of the college football season is, man, you just don't know what's going to happen. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow on the program, but these quote unquote experts, when it comes to football, how many do they get wrong? I mean, there's only so many Lee Corsos in the world, but when you look at how many things Paul Feinbaum got wrong, Skip Bayless got wrong, Colin Cowherd got wrong. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. It just matters if you're entertaining. But it's pretty wild that there were so many incorrect assumptions going into week 1 of the college football season. Get ready, because there's going to be even more in week 1 of the NFL, which starts Thursday night. Eagles and Cowboys. Look at our guy, Frank Reyes. I do believe if the Bucs can stay relatively healthy throughout the season, they can go all the way. The man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Frank Reyes. Hope you're well, my friend. I missed you. Give my love to Adam and the family. I'm with you, pal. I'm very bullish on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year. And you look at this team, and yeah, you want guys to be healthy. But Baker, you know what he's going to bring to the table. That guy is shot out of a freaking cannon. He is going to be ready to roll. And, with learning about the injuries to the Tristan Wirfs and the Chris Godwins of the world, it doesn't seem like they're going to be out for, a large chunk of the season. Take your time, work your way back. Get Godwin back sometime in October, get Tristan back. If those guys can both be back by week 4, week 5, and the Buccaneers can be right around 500, I think they're in a good spot. They're in just as good a spot as anybody. And when you look at their schedule down the stretch, that's what gives me a lot of hope about this team going forward. They don't have that murderer's row in the middle of the season like we've seen the last 2 years. It's not as tough. It's not as down the stretch like we've seen the last couple of years. They've been able to bounce back. But, man, I think they can go on a real run and peak at the right time. And that's another reason why I have a lot of hope for this team and really optimistic about their chances is how the schedule lays out. And I know you think you know the schedule right now, and then the season starts, you're like, oh, snap. Look what happened here. Completely different animal. I get that. But with that being said, you got to trust the Buccaneers and what they've done the last couple of years with what looks like to be a harder schedule going into the season. I'm excited, man. I cannot wait. Sunday cannot get here soon enough. When you look at what the Buccaneers have done these last couple of seasons with the defense that is not, up to snuff, I just think if they can get to the passer with 4, they're going to be a problem. Now, do they go out and get another edge rusher? I don't think so. They just picked up Mo Kamara. That could be a guy, hopefully, to contribute in some form or fashion as the season goes on. Don't sleep on a guy like Elijah Roberts either. He is a dude that has the most, what was it, the most most pressures the last couple of years. I like that, man. And a guy that's a little bit more of an unconventional type of passer. This is a guy that can come in later on in the game, go up against the, I don't want to say second string because we know we don't work out they don't take out the offensive lineman. But this is a guy when things start to slow down a little bit, he can be at 100% and really pose a threat that we haven't seen before. You need some of those guys on the D line to be able to push the starters. I'm a lot more bullish on the D line than other people. I really like Logan Hall. I like what he can bring to the table. And there was just one aspect of what I was watching a couple of weeks ago at training camp and seeing these 5 guys just kind of approaching the line of scrimmage for practice that day. And it was Logan Hall and Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey. And then you had Yaya Diaby on one side and Hassan Reddick on the other side. That is just, that's a scary group. When you look at those 5 guys that are going to have their hand in the dirt and they're going to get ready to do damage, they're going to be able to, if they stop the run, that's the big thing. If this team can stop the run, we go back to the Super Bowl winning year. This was a team that can force you to be one-dimensional. And when that's the case, watch out. Watch out for this Buccaneers defense. And it's crazy because when you look at what the offense has done holding the water the last couple of years, it'd be nice. I'm sure that they would really appreciate that if the defense can go out and be that opportunistic group that we've seen in years past. Bantry, our guy, the year of 2s, 2 special team scores, 2 defensive shutouts. Offense drops 2 50 burgers. Go Bucks. It's a 2 for 2 deal. I like that. The show of 2 double-digit sack guys from D-line edge 2. Imagine that. Imagine if you can get like 14 or 15 from Hassan Reddick and 10.5 from a guy like Yaya Diaby. If you get that from those guys, you're looking at a 12 or 13 win season. I'm telling you, this could be a huge year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's a lot of good vibes going with the celebration of the 50 years. I think there's a taste that this team has of success, and they want more. You already have a lot of guys on this team that have that championship pedigree. Not as many as obviously those numbers are going to go down, but I think you have the guys in the right spots. You have those guys in the right spots that have that pedigree, that have the experience of knowing what it takes to get to the top of the mountain. When you look at Levante David on one side and Mike Evans on the other side, you're 2 big-time leaders. Maybe not Hall of Famers with Levante. I wish it was. But Ring of Honor guys that, man, Bucks for life. Those are 2 great guys to build around. Then I love that it's 2 of the older guys and then 2 of the younger guys at that time. So you have Evans and David, and then you had 2 of the rookies at the time when Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tristan Wirfs. And then everything else kind of falls into place. Everything else, you kind of look around, you go, all right, well, you got a Godwin here, right? All right, well, he's been around. He knows what it entails. You look at the other side of the ball, you look at even a guy like Jamel Dean, right? And I know Jamel Dean. People want to run Jamel Dean out of town. That ain't happening, especially with Benjamin Morrison's injury. But there's something about Jamel Dean that you got to appreciate, that he is a guy that knows what it takes. He's a guy that goes about his business. He's not a guy that's not working hard. I see him every single day out there giving it all he's got. And I know it may not mean he's going to be successful because, I've told you this before. JTS was another one of those guys the last couple of years. He wasn't underperforming because he didn't work hard. JTS was one of the first guys out there every single day, working on getting bigger, working on getting faster, working on getting stronger. He just wasn't good enough. Jamel Dean, is he ever going to be a guy that's going to have 5 or 6 picks a season? Probably not. But he's a guy that works his ass off. He's a hell of a teammate. And with this defense, if we're looking at this defense like how we're hoping it to be, being able to rush the passer with 4, getting some pressure so that Todd Bowles and his defensive backs don't have to play so far off guys. They can play press a little bit more. They're not covering for as long as we have seen in the past. I mean, it's weird to say it, but you could see the best year of Jamel Dean's career this year if that happens. Nobody's going to talk about that because people are already looking at Morrison and Parrish, and there's a lot of people that don't like him. I get that. But if everything goes to plan, if the guys get to the passer the way that we hope that they can, this just feeds into the success for Jamel Dean. This just accentuates his strengths. So if you get a Jamel Dean that's worried about pressing at the line, tackling around the line of scrimmage, I mean, that's Jamel Dean's strengths. And you haven't been able to utilize that the last couple of years, which sucks because you paid the guy all that money. But you're going to be able to utilize his strengths this year if everything else goes to plan. So remember that. We're so quick to write guys off. Get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy. Two guys that I'm not writing off, Jamel Dean and Rachaad White. I'm not saying that they're going to go back to being, top tier guys and they're going to be Pro Bowlers, but can they contribute to a winning team? No doubt about it. Nick Bowen brings up a great point. I was just going to say this. Huge game for Reddick this weekend going up against a third-string right tackle on Michael Penix's blind side. He's the X factor for us. And yeah, especially from what you saw last year against this team, against the Atlanta Falcons, and how the Buccaneers were unable to win either one of those games. It's still a modern miracle, in my opinion, that the Bucs were able to win the division after losing 2 games to the Atlanta Falcons. And we saw what Kirk Cousins did last year, especially when we were watching the Netflix documentary. But this is a different Buccaneers team. Savassi Dennis is going to be in there. He's going to help out. I think that when you could get Hassan Reddick in there, I'm jacked up for this game on Sunday, man. I really am. I think there's big things ahead for our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nathan Elliott, Jamel Dean, a great guy who has fun playing the game of football. He's happy to be in Tampa, but I question how hard he will fight for the win. I don't question that. It's not a question of effort when it comes to Jamel Dean. It's not. To me, it comes down to talent. And that's the hard thing for people, and not just saying you, Nate, but the people out there where you're always trying to quantify something with a number or a statistic or this or that or an injury, and you're trying to get too deep into the weeds. Sometimes a guy's just not good enough, or sometimes a guy doesn't do what you think he can do. Jamel Dean's never going to be a guy. He's never going to be like a Deron Bland like we see for the Cowboys, where he has a knack for the football. Just not his thing. But I never question his effort. I don't. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. Can he be better? 100%. But it's not because he's not, it's not for a lack of effort. That's for sure. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about, what a weekend in college football. Okay. This was really, I would say this is my favorite opening weekend of college football that I've seen. Number one. Just because of the storylines, just because of the success of our teams here in the Sunshine State. The Lee Corso thing was amazing. Last time, picking all the winners, 6-0. Good job, Lee. And just like a staple of Americana. We're going to miss Lee Corso, that's for sure. And again, I said this when we were talking about Tony Saladino. It's so great to be able to give people their flowers while they're still here. And we do that often when people are retiring, but it doesn't always, let's not wait for retirements either, right? Let's celebrate people. Let's celebrate people while they're here, when they're in the middle of doing a great job too. But I was looking back on the conversation that Zach and I had last year when we were on WDAE. And if you remember, I told you guys this a year and a half ago, and I said this on Friday. Well, we'll start with Friday. On Friday, I told you that Alabama's not as good as everybody says they are. And also Florida State is better than what a lot of people are saying that they are. I told you that on Friday. So was I surprised by what happened in that game between Florida State and Alabama? I'm sorry, man. I wasn't. Maybe mildly surprised, but shocked, no. How about that? If I had to put money on the game, to me, I thought that was a live dog at home. Florida State, 31-17. They win by 2 scores. There's a confidence that Tommy Castellanos played with, taking care of the football, running for 78 yards, and he knew Nick Saban's not there to help him. He was spot on. 100%. you have to have that kind of confidence if you're a quarterback going up against Alabama, regardless of what the coach is, regardless of what the team is like. I like that type of bravado. I don't think it was braggadocious. I mean, you got to shoot your shot. So good for him. And I also think it's very interesting. We had this conversation with Corey Long last week, our good buddy. Mike Norvell is a guy that catches a lot of heat, and he has, obviously for what happened last year. And, I think the big problem is that you had DJ Uiagalelei as your quarterback, and I didn't think he was it's crazy how one bad decision can just ruin your entire season. That's what happened. This is a guy that I wasn't impressed at Clemson, wasn't impressed when he went over to the Pacific Northwest and played with Oregon State. He just wasn't a good player. Ironically enough, I know he did some good things there in the preseason in the NFL, but one bad decision kind of ruined it for them. But how do you not give Mike Norvell any credit for going undefeated a couple of years ago? And I know how good Jordan Travis was. I know the good players that they had on the defensive line. I understand that, but, Norvell was part of that too. He doesn't get any credit for that, which is kind of funky to me. Now, can he be better? Yeah, of course. Still a young guy. But I think what he was able to do to get his team ready for Alabama and to just stand there and to punch and then punch and then punch and then punch again. Like, I really like what I saw from Mike Norvell and the Noles. They won the battle of the trenches against Alabama. Think about what I just said. Florida State won the battle of the trenches against Alabama. And you can dog Bama all you want, but it takes two to tango. And you could be a Noles hater all you want, but I ain't disrespecting Mike Norvell, Tommy Castellanos, and the Florida State Seminoles. I'm not taking anything away from those guys. They won that game. They earned that victory. Nobody gave it to them. They snatched that thing. Good for them. But as far as Alabama goes, I told you this was coming. Didn't I tell you? Everybody else says, oh, Kalen DeBoer this, Kalen DeBoer that. I told you it was going to be a problem. That game played out exactly how I thought it was going to. This whole thing with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama has unfolded exactly how I told you it was going to unfold. The two places that we were going to see issues were going to be on the offensive line and in the secondary. Why? Because whatever Nick Saban did, he had so many of those hog mollies on the offensive line. You think about all the great players, all the great offensive line that have been drafted over the last 10, 15 years under his watch. He knew the importance of the trenches. And I knew once he was gone that was going to be a problem. You're just not going to get the same players. You don't have the same gravitas, Kalen DeBoer, that Nick Saban does. And also secondary play. Think about how many great players over the years that have come out of there. Drake Kirkpatrick's and the D. Milliners and the Minka Fitzpatrick's and just so many different guys. I'm not going to name them all. You know them all. You've seen them all. Nick Saban was an expert at teaching secondary play. His corners and safeties. Look at how many of those dudes got drafted in the last 2 decades. Insane. And then I told you, once Kalen DeBoer loses a game that he shouldn't have lost in a lot of people's eyes, the pitchforks were going to be out. He's not an Alabama guy. He's not a guy that the boosters are going to look at and we'll be all right. People are freaking the fuck out right now. You listened to Paul Feinbaum's show yesterday? Pooh! Or was it yesterday? I don't know if it was yesterday or you put something on Twitter. I saw something like a guy named Legend was freaking out. And they're already talking about, all right, what can we do to get Nick Saban off the set of the ESPN College Game Day and back on the sidelines for Alabama? It's not going to happen. He don't want to deal with NIL and transfer portal and everything like that. He don't want to deal with all that shit. I don't blame him. But college football at times, I think is very easy to figure out what's going to happen when you're not involved Like when you're not so immersed in it that you can't be honest with yourself. Seeing what happened with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama did not surprise me. I'm not an Alabama fan. I'm not an SEC guy. I don't want to see them fail. I don't want to see them do it is what it is. Seeing what Bill Belichick did, seeing what happened there. I mean, it doesn't take a freaking rocket scientist to figure out what the hell was going to happen. Spits on Sports, $70 million buyout. That's why I know. So they're going to have to eat it. They're going to have to swallow this pill for this entire season. It's going to be a long year in Tuscaloosa. A long year. And again, guys, I'm telling you, this was not hard to see. Listen to their schedule. All right, they play Louisiana Monroe, and then they play Wisconsin. Listen, they're home against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to chin check you now. You better rise to the occasion, because if not, you're going to be in trouble. Think about this. If Alabama loses that game to Wisconsin, they'll be 1-2 going to Georgia to take on the Bulldogs. They could be 1-3. Alabama could be 1-3 going against Vanderbilt in a couple of weeks. Think about that. Bama 1-3. Whoo! Missouri, and then they home to Tennessee, at South Carolina, home against LSU and Oklahoma, and then that game at the end of the season, the Iron Bowl, there at Auburn. Who's to say they're going to win that game? Like, we don't know. You don't know. Shit is crazy, man. And when you look at the SEC and look at how many teams, think about this. Check this out. 3, 6, 9, 12. There's 16 teams in the Southeastern Conference. 16 of them. 2 of them lost. Alabama and Texas. Think about that. It's pretty wild. What's going on, our guy, Honest Hammer? Bama's tears are so sweet. Savannah saw the portals writing on the wall. And Saban, I think you meant. Yep. Smart man. It's even the playing field 100%. Chan, you're right. The coaching winner in that FSU Alabama game was Gus Malzahn. He is the biggest difference maker in this Noles mind. He sure is, man. What happened to that guy at UCF? I'm telling you, when people say that Gus Malzahn went there and gave them like a poison pill to make up for what happened in the Peach Bowl when he was at Auburn, I'm not a big conspiracy theory guy. I like that one. Look at DT. ULM might beat Alabama. That's pretty crazy. 16 teams in the SEC. 2 of them lost. Alabama and Texas. The number 3 team in the country and the number 8 team in the country. That is why this was, in my opinion, the greatest first week of college football that I've ever seen. Just so many storylines. And listen, we'll get right into the next one. Watching. Hold on. What is this person saying? Come on, Jay. On paper, they had a very high-grade roster. This sentiment is more a reflection of a widespread sentiment regarding the team who beat them. But I get it. No one could have predicted FSU to be this improved. Okay. I don't really know what you're saying, but I just gave a pretty thorough explanation why I thought that Alabama was going to. And it's been like that for about a year and a half now. All right. How about Miami and Notre Dame? I like when guys get an opportunity on the national stage to prove what they're all about. And I said this last week with USF, right? Byron Brown, Alex Golish, and USF had an opportunity to show everybody last Thursday what they were all about. Enough of the talking. Go out there and win a damn bowl game. That's it. That's it. No more talking. Get it done. Miami had that opportunity against Notre Dame. And more importantly, Carson Beck had that opportunity. And there was a lot of people, and I'm pretty sure somebody said it here on the program last week. Not me. One of you guys out there. Somebody, I forgot who it was, but it was one of you guys that I love. And they said, I don't trust Carson Beck. I don't trust Carson Beck. Well, after what he was able to do against Notre Dame, you got to put respect on the guy's name. Now, do I think he's a guy that's a top 3 or 4 quarterback coming out next year? No, but he looked composed. He looked like a guy that has been through the battles before. And this was a very, very nice win for Miami. Do I think Notre Dame is done? Do I think they're screwed? No. Because one thing we have to keep kind of, in perspective, it's just 1 week and things change. And we saw this last year with Notre Dame. I don't know if there are many teams out there. And listen, you don't want to lose a game early on in the season, especially like this when you're Notre Dame. Especially when your only other ranked matchup after this week coming up in Texas A&M was going to be Boise State, but they're not going to be ranked after losing to USF. The new rankings come out at 2:00 today. So it's a big game against Texas A&M. But one thing we know about Florida State, and we saw it last year, is that there are very few teams that can right the ship better than they can. There are very few teams that can kind of navigate their way and really just get better as the year went on. And now when you look at it and you see how college football is, a loss like this isn't a death knell anymore. It's not. You lose, it's like, hey, whatever, just keep it there. Keep it to that one loss. You look at last year, they lose that game in Northern Illinois. You guys remember that. What a huge upset. But they find their way back. They win against Louisville, right? They beat the crap out of then number 24 Navy. Remember Army and Navy? Both in the top 25, they beat Army, but then they go to the playoff, right? I mean, let's not forget, Notre Dame went to the freaking college football playoff last year after losing to Northern Illinois in week 2 by beating Indiana, by beating Georgia, by beating Penn State. And then they lost to Ohio State in the final, in the championship game. So it's just 1 week. But certain teams, I think you can kind of get a gauge of, all right, well, they could get better. Other teams, I think you look at and you go, like, I look at my Alabama and I look at some of the guys dancing around in the secondary and guys getting pushed all over the place. Like, I don't know, man. That didn't look too good to me. Notre Dame fought their ass off. They got back all the way to the end, right? The score was probably not as close, not as indicative of how close the game was. It was pretty, and listen, and the Hammer, I know that was you. And you could say, oh, his wide receivers bailed him out, but you got to make the passes too, man. You got to make the passes too. And Tony, that dude's a problem. CJ Daniels, problem. So those two guys right there, but yeah, somebody's got to be able to throw him the football. I think it's unfair to say, oh, a quarterback's only be good because of his wide receivers, the Johnny Manziel corollary. You can't do that with everybody, right? Again, do I think Carson Beck's the greatest quarterback in the world? No, but that's exactly what he needed to do. Take care of the football, put his team in a position to succeed. And the other thing that kind of jumped out at me about this game was the lack of usage when it came to Jeremiah Love. And I wonder if this is a long-term play. I know you want to play to win the game. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know, man. I think at Notre Dame, they're playing the long game here. They're just not trying to put all their eggs in one basket. They're taking their time. They understand that it's a long process. And if you lost, you had a much worse loss last year, week 2. And you got to the national championship game, why freak out? They've already proven that they can bounce back. And I'm not going to bet against them, that's for sure. Hammer, Carson Beck is trash. His wide receivers helped him a ton. They only scored a field goal. He didn't put the dagger in. Yeah, it's a 6th year. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the gig. It's part of the gig. And yeah, some people can look at them and say that they kind of left the door open for Notre Dame. Yeah, but you did enough to win. You did enough to win. At the end of the day, that's all that counts. And that's all that people remember. And it makes sense they put out top 10 in week 1. What's the worst loss for the season? Texas losing to Ohio State or Bama losing to unranked? Easily. Alabama's loss for sure. Not even close. Texas's loss to Ohio State, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. I don't think that hurts them at all. I don't think it hurts them one bit. Really doesn't. You're looking at Texas and you're looking at Ohio State. Those two teams are going to beat the snot out of so many teams on their schedule. Losing 14-7 in week 1 at the Horseshoe. that was really Arch Manning's first like real test in his career. I'm not looking at the game like, oh, Texas is screwed. You just can't. It's a different game now. You have to view college football completely different. You have to look at college football and say, all right, this is where they were in week 1 and week 2. But knowing that there's so many teams that get in, just get hot down the stretch. Win your conference if you can. Keep your losses under 3 if you're one of those big conference teams. And if you're a big name school, no reason to freak out because you know how this works. And we saw it with the coverage, man. And you even have Heather Dinich saying that LSU should be number 1. Really? LSU should be number 1 by beating Clemson? Come on. Great win for Brian Kelly. Hell, they needed that. They needed that in a big way. But they're not number 1. Are you serious? Ohio State beating the number 1 ranked team. Like, it just, again, we're going to talk about this tomorrow because I want to write it all out. Because some of the shit that you hear on TV, like, I don't watch any of that stuff on TV. I watch the games, and even like the halftime shows are good because they're highlight packages, and I love stuff like that. But I don't care who's talking. I don't. I'm not listening to any of them. None of them. It's crazy. These people just say things to say things. There's no repercussions. There's no penalty for being wrong. And they just want to say something that's clickable. Say something that's going to get attention, and it's just why I don't know. It's so shallow to me, man. It's so shallow. I don't want any part of that at all. And you're not going to get any of that right here with me. I'm not going to say things just to say things. All right. If that stunts my growth because I don't have viral things that come out of this podcast because it's about speaking out of my ass and just saying things just to say things so you can show up on Monday and be like, ha, you're wrong. Like, I'm sorry. I don't want to go about my business like that. Sorry. But unfortunately, like Colin Cowherd once said, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong as long as you're entertaining. And I think that's so crappy, man. Just, no good. I'm good on that. No, thank you. All right. And shout out to Chan. That's right. The Buckeyes are the number 1 team until someone beats them. Anyone saying anything else is an SEC homer. Yeah. Defending champ beats the current number 1 team, but then they should not be the new number 1. Make that make sense. Yeah. And we're going to get more into the Arch Manning in that game too in a little bit because I thought that was such a good football game. Everybody wasn't like, listen, it happens, right? It happens. Like Arch, and again, we'll get to them in a little bit. I really enjoyed that game, though. All right, the race. Now, this team showing up big. How great was it to see Randy Arozarena back? God, missed that kid. Missed him so much. And speaking to some people over the weekend about the race, and I didn't bring up anything that I've been saying about the race, but one of those people has said to me, Jay, it's just so hard to root for them. And I go, really? And I go, why? It's just they trade away all my son's favorite players. We have all of these shirts in our house of players that aren't on the team anymore. And just starts going through the names, right? He's going through, we had Snell, and we had Arozarena, and we had Siri, and we had Wander, and we had Glasnow. And it's just like, geez, man. I mean, that's part of the gig. It's part of growing the fan base. And it's still wild to me, especially after watching Randy last night, of just the lack of wherewithal when it comes to the Rays organization. And I don't really know who you put that on, because I think when you're the general manager in the front office, you're trying to put the best product on the field. But I think it's also very close-minded, very shallow to think that the decisions that you make as far as roster turnover isn't going to be deflating to your fan base. Familiarity with your players, that like breeds a type of commonality. That's the kind of thing that's going to keep you around. Like, you like that kind of stuff, man. You want to be able to cheer for the same guys. Like, that's how you build memories, right? I mean, think about that. The more guys around, you're building memories with those players, and you just, it's more to see the ups and downs, to see what people go through, right? To see, and I always go back to, I mean, just think about it, man. Think about the Mike Evans story last year. If Mike Evans was in year 4, or Mike Evans left after year 6, do we still love Mike Evans like we love him? No. But last year, because this is the only team he's played for, he gets injured in the middle of the season. When he went down, everybody was like, oh, no. And he comes back in the final game, and what happens? The Buccaneers throw caution to the wind. They put a player's accomplishment and achievement above the team by going out there and throwing a pass to make sure that he got 1,000 yards. And not one person had a problem. Think about that. Nobody cared because it was Mike. Because it was Mike. Because he's been here. He's 32. He's played his entire career with the Buccaneers. He's an all-time great, a top 10 player in history, the greatest offensive player in Bucs history. You know how many Mike Evans jerseys are out there? Thousands. Why? Because he's a great guy, and he's been here. People don't bat an eye of buying his jersey because they know he's a Buck for life. They know he's going to be here. They're not going to make a bad decision and not pay the guy and disrespect him. The Rays, I just really hope moving forward they put a precedent on that. For you guys out there as Tampa Bay sports fan, you deserve better. I've been saying this for years. You deserve better as a baseball fan in this town. The Rays need a real self-identification in the offseason. And I'm not talking about the new owners or the stadium. I'm talking about the guys that are still here. Eric Neander has to look in the mirror. And he needs to do better. He's got to make better decisions. Everybody's so scared to say that. And I love Eric. Eric's one of the best people that I've ever met. Not in media. He's a freaking awesome guy. But he's got to do better. What he's done the last couple of years has not worked out. Ha-Seong Kim was one of the worst decisions that we've seen in the history of this Rays franchise. Nobody wants to say that, but it was. Luckily for the Rays, they were able to get out from underneath it. You put them on waivers, the Braves pick them up. That's great. But it doesn't mean that that money couldn't have been utilized in a better way. To get a better catcher, to get another starting pitcher, to get another outfielder, to do something. Maybe you call Carson Williams up. Maybe you have him start the season with the team instead of Ha-Seong Kim. Get him up. Get his reps. Who cares? Just get him up here. The way that the Rays have developed their position players is not worked. It's not worked. They have to change things up, whether that's changing who some of the coaches are, changing what the game plan is for some of these guys, maybe calling some of them up earlier. I don't quite understand why you're so worried about having these guys for so long. You're going to get rid of them anyway. Who cares? Get them up and use them while they're young. They don't know any better. Get them up right now. Who cares? You're going to trade him anyway if that's your mode of operation. So who cares if he's 24, 25? Try to win now. Win in the present. You're so worried about marinating guys and holding on to them for as long as humanly possible. And it hasn't worked. Look in the mirror. Shane Baszler, the great performance last night. Good for him. But you can't tell me that the pitching staff is what we're all used to when it comes to our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's just not the same. It's not. Going into the year, I was like, man, I can't believe that there was so much disrespect when it came to our Rays in the pitching staff. They weren't even in the top 10 on a lot of people's lists. Guess they were right. We have all this talk about Kyle Snyder is the best pitching coach. Okay. But those kind of things change. You're not just the best just because that was your identity. You have to punch the clock every day. And you got to continue to be on the forefront of this cutting edge technology and people being better. And I'm really intrigued. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Taj Bradley said something over the weekend that it was the first time that he's ever read a scouting report. Really? It's kind of crazy. First time? I don't quite understand. Taj Bradley said he studied scouting reports for the first time in his career this week. He allowed 1 hit and 1 run in 5 innings to the Padres. I just never did it at all. I was kind of out there blind the whole time. I don't understand that. Is it because the Rays didn't have him do it? Was it because, was he just being ignorant to the entire situation? Whatever. Whoever's fault it is, right? I mean, isn't that something that the Rays should be working on to try to make some headway with the kid? You're not watching scouting reports? You've never read a scouting report? What kind of sense does that make? And as much as you could look at Taj Bradley and blame him, okay, you could. But the pitching hasn't been great the last couple of years. And Taj isn't the only one that struggled. You look at what Shane Baz hasn't done. Joe Boyle, when he gets called up, that's not great. The Rays need a complete detox and a cleanse of whatever the hell they've been doing the last couple of years. Because this shit it's hard to get excited about them winning the way they have the last couple of days. Because you look at it and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Here we go again with the Rays. False hope. That's what my buddy said. Yes, 7-3 in the last 10. Won 4 in a row. They have less than a 2.5% chance of making the playoffs. They're in action tonight against Seattle. It's kind of funny too, and again, to all those people that love run differential. The Rays have the same exact run differential as the Blue Jays, yet the Rays are a game under 500, and the Blue Jays are 20 games over 500. And what are people going to say? Oh, well, eventually that kind of stuff evens itself out. Not really. Not really. Because that was one of the things last year, too. Oh, the run differential doesn't mean anything. Nada. So when people use run differential, you should run the other way because you're about to embark on a stupid-ass conversation. And I know just being around baseball people more and more and more the last couple of weeks, getting back into coaching, there is more misinformation when it comes to baseball than any of the other sports. Because you have these guys and the shit that they teach. Holy smokes. You have people that have never played the game before. Ever. Their exploits stopped in Little League. And they're sitting there telling you about spin rate and spin efficiency and all these different metrics and the BABIPs and all this shit. That means absolutely nothing. All you're doing when you're looking at that's in retrospect. You're looking back at what has happened. Don't give me no freaking number to try to quantify something on a stat sheet. Tell me what happens when you look at a hitter's eyes as he walks to the on-deck circle. Tell me something as a pitching coach when you walk out to the mound and you put your hand on a guy's shoulder and you can tell that his heart is about to beat out of his chest. What the hell does spin efficiency have to do with that? Nothing. Nada. Who cares? There's such a lack of feel in the major leagues. Such a lack of feel. And it's part of the reason why people don't give a shit about. There's no fun. There's no excitement, right? It's just We need the Chandler Simpsons of the world. We need the Otanis and the Judges. We need Bobby Witt Jr.'s. Like we need personalities. We need guys that are fun to watch. Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner. Give me all of those guys. Randy Arozarena. Stop giving me these guys that are just these vanilla players, this missionary position bullshit for baseball. Man, it's making the game that I grew up loving to watch and play and to coach and to umpire. It's just, I hate having baseball conversations with people. I hate it. Because I sit there and I listen to people and I'm just like, what the hell are you talking about? What the hell does that have anything to do with it? Nothing. People want to talk about spin rate, spin efficiency, and the guy doesn't throw strikes. Well, the spin's down here, and this is that, and this. You're giving up home runs. Baseball nerds. Oh, it's like the worst. The freaking worst. USF, 9 points in the USA Today coaches poll, places them 39th in the country. Not bad, not bad. Behind Tulane, Navy, Memphis in the American. Rays back in action tonight, 7:35 start against the Mariners. Hey, go out there, cause some havoc, man. I like it. Cause some havoc. Do what you got to do. Yeah, but it is what it is. All right, before we get to our guy, Matera, let's take you through my guys over at Honest Hammer. The Honest Hammer. Look at that. See? Russ, that's a new song. The Honest Hammer. Look at what these guys are able to do. 813-244-0956. Your commercial, your residential needs, they take care of you. Why hire them? Well, they're just awesome. No project too big, too small. There's a lot of people recently have asked me about kitchen and bathroom remodels. Boom. My guys can take care of you right here. Some people want new construction. Got the plot of land. You're figuring out what to do. I didn't know what the hell I was looking at, to be honest with you. But all the floor plans and just everything is so detailed. Russ and the crew, these are the kind of guys you want to spend your money with. You trust them. It's trustworthy. He's a Tampa Bay sports fan just like you. Kitchen, bathroom remodels. As I just said, new and commercial construction. You want a new custom home, interior and structural renovations. They have got you. The Honest Hammer General Contractor Company, CGC 153-116, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. Go to thehonesthammer.com and listen. If you tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast, you get a discount yourself. So it may not be for you, okay? It may be for somebody else. You know somebody that needs a little bit of work done on their house? Give them a shout, man. 813-244-0956. They'll be able to take care of you. The Honest Hammer. They are the best. The best, no doubt about it. Yeah, just mentioning about the race thing and just looking at this team. I really want to show some love to Jason Adam, a ruptured quad tendon, carted off the field yesterday. Race traded him away a couple years ago. Great bullpen arm. And man, to watch him go down yesterday, it was like he got shot. And your heart goes out, because when it's something like that, that's it, buddy. That's it. You know your season's done, especially this late into the year. God, it was just, your heart goes out to the guy. And now we find out again, ruptured quad tendon for Jason Adam. Mike Schilt just said it, or he said it yesterday. And Steve Carney just put this on social media. One of the nicest guys I've ever covered. Yeah, different kind of cat, that's for sure. Different kind of cat, but a really, really good dude. Devin, how about them Knowles? Yeah, man, I touched on it, buddy. Knowles looked fantastic. I'm super impressed with Tommy Castellanos. And again, the test for Mike Norvell, what's everybody else, like, what's the rest of the schedule looking like? How are you going to step up against the rest of the teams? Are you going to be able to punch them in the mouth like you did with Alabama? Not surprised. It's all right that you just got here late, Dev. But a lot of respect, and I think not enough people are putting respect on Mike Norvell and what he's done at Florida State. I know it was ugly last year, but just like anything, you make one bad decision, bringing in a guy like DJU, it's going to screw you. It really is. So we'll see if they can carry it over. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again. College football is better. It is better when our teams in the Sunshine State are winning. That means Florida. That means Florida State. That means Miami. It means USF. It means UCF too. But yes, all those teams, if they're winning, it's better because, we're more interested, and I just think it's better. The overall product is fantastic. So we'll see what happens this week. A huge matchup coming up between USF and Florida. We'll break that down as the week goes on. All right, let's bring him in. It's our good pal, Matt Matera from Pewter Report. Let's make sure. There we go. Matt Matera, Pewter Report. You can't see him. Yes, you can here on the program. The last real champion of our show. What's going on, pal? How are you?
I'm doing great, Jay. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. What a great week in college football. And I feel like it's the ultimate kind of jump off point for the NFL week one. How'd you like the college slate?
Loved it. I mean, anytime you get to watch a full slate of any type of football, it's fantastic. And the first week of college football absolutely delivered. I mean, I know it wasn't crazy high scoring, but, to start off with Texas and Ohio State and, to see that matchup, and it really got close at the end, too. A lot of top-ranked matchups as well, even to end the night with LSU Clemson. And, of course, Florida State. That was awesome, too. So, loved watching it. Loved the storylines week to week, getting to the games as well. So nothing's better than when football is back.
Yeah, you got that right, pal. David Velasquez is asking, so we'll start right there. Status on Benjamin Morrison. I know he wasn't out there yesterday. Cause for concern about his status for week one against the Falcons?
Yeah, I definitely think there's cause for concern. And we asked Todd Bowles about it on Monday. It was a bonus day type of practice, but we did get to speak to the coach. And, he said they're not ruling him out yet. We'll see. That's usually his go-to line with player injuries. We'll see. I don't know yet. Stuff like that. But we're not just talking about a guy trying to come back from an injury. We're talking about a player that's missed a lot of training camp, did not play in one preseason game. And he's been great when he's been available, like even going back to OTAs and a little bit of training camp that he was. But he's also never played an NFL game. So to me, it would be a little absurd to all of a sudden he's going to start practicing on Wednesday, and then you're going to throw him into a game with meaningful snaps when you have Zion, McCollum, and Jamel Dean, who've been playing for a very long time at this point, especially with Dean. I think it's a concern that he's not going to start the season, though I do think the Bucs are equipped to overcome it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So break down the rest of the secondary for us then. How do you think it's going to look when they line up for that first snap on defense against the Falcons?
Yeah, so you're going to have Zion McCollum and Jamel Dean as your outside corners. Antoine Winfield Jr. returning, which is big time. He missed a handful of games last year, I think 9 to be exact. Will be free safety. Strong safety will be Tyke Smith, who was the nickel corner last year. And taking that nickel corner spot is the rookie Jacob Parrish, third-round pick out of Kansas State. Scott always likes when I mention that. Mm-hmm. He's had a great training camp so far, just active overall in terms of getting his hands on the football, creating takeaways, pass breakups, and all that stuff. So I'm excited how he's going to mesh into the secondary there. Backing up, you got Kindle Vildor on the outside. And let's remember, Bryce Hall is on the practice squad, but he could easily be a game day elevation considering the injury with Benjamin Morrison. The issue becomes what happens with the depth at safety, because Christian Izien right now was not practicing either. He's one of those guys that might not be available for week one, but Christian Izien is a nice little chess piece for the Bucs because he can play backup safety. He can play in the slot for Parrish if they want to move Parrish to the outside if something happened to some of these other injuries. But if he's not available, you have Kayvon Merriweather, Rashad Wisdom, who was on the practice squad last year. He's played in the slot a little bit too, but it gets dicey with the depth at safety after the two starters.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I saw some stuff about Jacob Parrish possibly playing on the outside. How could that shake down if Parrish gets love on the outside, who would then slot into the nickel? Would it just be one of those things where him and Zion switch? Like, how would that go?
Zion could switch in, and it depends on the matchup and the opponent. I think a good example is they are playing Atlanta this week, and Zion McCollum has been on record before. I don't like going against Darnell Mooney, just because he said he's one of the toughest guys to defend, and it's just different size-wise and stuff like that. So they could move McCollum into the slot depending on who they're going against or the receiver that's going to be lining up there a lot. They could put Tyke Smith back into the slot, and you put Merriweather back in the safety position, which he played last year. There's a lot of different moving parts, and it's not exactly, okay, plan A, plan B, plan C. It's literally going to be based on every single matchup. What Todd Bowles likes for the secondary against Atlanta could look 10 times different when they go up against Houston in week 2 or host the Jets in week 3 and then the Eagles in week 4.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the one thing that we can agree on is they got to get to the passer, and they got to get to the passer with 4 if they can. What gives you, other than just the obvious of the injuries that the Atlanta has on the offensive line, other than that, what gives you hope and optimism that this Buccaneers pass rush is going to be better, not just in week 1, but beyond?
Well, the beauty of having Hassan Reddick is that you have a proven double-digit sacker, which the Bucs haven't had that since, Shaq Barrett in his prime. And I understand everything that went wrong with Hassan Reddick and the New York Football Jets last season. But I think he's turned a corner, no pun intended, to playing on the edge. I think he's truly bought into everything that the Bucs are trying to do defensively this season. So let's also remember, Kalijah Kancey will be playing the first game of the regular season for the first time in his career. The past 2 years, he's gotten injured in training camp in the preseason. So you have Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey in the middle. That opens stuff up for Yaya Diaby. And also takes a lot of attention off of it opens things up for Hassan Reddick. It takes a lot of attention off of Yaya Diaby when he was the primary guy last season. So I think Yaya will kind of benefit from cleaning up on some sacks that maybe weren't there last year because Joe Tryon-Shoyinka wasn't getting to the quarterback. But if Hassan Reddick is pushing from the outside, quarterback's going to come the way of Yaya, and he could get it done. And then if anything else, too, it's better for the Bucs to get it done with the 4-man pass rush. That'll certainly help in the postseason when the Bucs couldn't get off the field last year and teams are better against the blitz. But Todd Bowles is a creator to the oblivion when it comes to different blitzes and stuff like that. They were still top 10 in sacks despite not being able to get to the quarterback with the front 4. So if all else fails, you have the crazy, chaotic blitzes that Todd Bowles comes up with going up against a inexperienced quarterback with Michael Penix Jr. He's going to see looks he's never seen before. And I know he got a little bit of time last year, but I thought it was ridiculous by the Falcons to not play him at all in the preseason. I think you're going to take advantage of an inexperienced quarterback on top of the tackle situation.
Yeah, I wonder the hierarchy because, again, I'm looking back at last year and I'm going, you know how crazy it is that the Buccaneers were able to win the division after losing 2 games to the Atlanta Falcons? It's kind of wild mathematically. That just doesn't happen because it's not like it was this weird aberration where Atlanta was 4-13 and 2 of the wins came against the Bucs. They were still a team that were in the hunt for a good chunk of the season, but the Buccaneers were able to kind of right the ship at the end of the year and win that division. Do you think the gap between those 2 teams is closer than it was last year or farther apart?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit farther apart. I was saying this yesterday on a different show that I think there's a better chance that Carolina surpasses Atlanta for the second spot in the NFC South than Atlanta does catching the Bucs for first place. And I think that just has to do with the talent that Tampa Bay has. To me, Atlanta feels a little bit like a house of cards. Everyone's talking about this exceptional offense, but if it doesn't work with Michael Penix, I mean, we saw what happened with bad quarterback play last year with this team. Their receivers are not as good as what Tampa Bay has, even with the injuries to Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan. After Drake London, I'm not entirely impressed by the Falcons' passing game and their wide receivers. I think Kyle Pitts, the tight end, at this point is extremely overrated. They're exceptional running the football with Bijan Robinson, but okay. I mean, other teams outside of the Eagles have had great running backs, but haven't gone far with them. I think Derrick Henry with the Titans for many years was a great example. Now he's with the Ravens, and they still couldn't even get to the Super Bowl with him. And then Carolina, on the other hand, they've bought into the positivity bully that is Dave Canales. And I think they play like an inspired team. They hung tough with the Chiefs last year. They beat the Falcons in that last game of the season that punched the ticket for Tampa Bay into the postseason. Now, the Bucs beat the Saints anyway, so they would have gone in. But Carolina, to me, is just kind of lacking talent right now. But they have the belief that I don't think Atlanta has. So I think Carolina might be more of a thorn in the side of the Bucs than maybe Atlanta is.
Yeah, and I don't trust Raheem Morris. I know that's kind of, taboo to
That
say
too,
here
yeah.
in Tampa because like people like the guy and I know how close he is with Rondé and they remember from his time here and they thought he was a little bit too much of a player's coach. And I'm just like, I don't have all of those strings that are attached. I'm just watching for what I saw. I didn't like what I saw last year. This is the same thing you kind of saw in Tampa Bay and they undisciplined, they just don't seem to be well coached. And I don't know. Does that get better? Like, what happens if it doesn't get better and they still make mistakes? Like, then what? Right? Then what's the
Right.
excuse? I'm not complaining about it. Just is what it is. Your level of concern now again for the offensive line. Now that knowing that Tristan's not there, he shouldn't be out too long. A couple games at the most. But Charlie Heck and the rest of that O line. Where's your concern? Because we know what Atlanta was able to do in the offseason, bringing in some pass rushers.
Yeah. I'm not overly concerned because I think we're going to see Tristan Wirfs sooner rather than later. And yeah, He won't be playing against Atlanta, but I think we're going to see him by the time the Bucs get to their home opener in week 3.
Okay.
I really do. So when you factor that in, I think if you look at the first 4 games of the season with Atlanta, Houston, the Jets, and then the Eagles, I think even with Tristan Wirfs, there are a group of people that would say, okay, they can go 2-2. I think the ceiling, I mean, sure, they could go 4-0, but I think like realistically, they could go 3-1, but I could also see 2-2. So to me, if Tristan Wirfs gets back for that Jets game in week 3, then you're looking at just trying to go 1-1. You still have the rest of the offensive line there, and they've had all of the summer to figure out what they have with Charlie Heck. So are they going to put Charlie Heck on an island going against Jalen Walker and some of these other new pass rushers that the Falcons have? No, they're going to give him Cade Otton. If you saw in the preseason, anytime Charlie Heck was in, Cade Otton was right next to him. Sometimes Payne Durham was right next to him too. So they'll beef up that side of the line. I think they'll rely on the running game, put Charlie Heck in more run game situations or run it to the other side of the offensive line. I think Josh Broussard will really protect Charlie Heck where you won't see kind of what happened last year when Luke Gedeke got hurt, Justin School came in, and Aiden Hutchinson had 3 sacks in the first half and all that stuff. I don't think you'll see that this year. And then you're kind of just biding your time until Tristan Wirfs returns. So because everyone's back, because it's a well-oiled machine, a pretty gelled unit besides Charlie Heck, I'm not overly concerned about it.
Yeah, I like that. And you got Keith, so he can just pretty much do whatever, just throw that battering ram anywhere around Charlie Heck's area. Running back position, Bucky Irving. I saw Sean Tucker return to practice too. What's your take on Bucky Irving? Any concerns about him being able to kind of carry the load this year for the team, and what kind of impact do you think Rashad and Sean Tucker could have?
I'm a little concerned with Bucky in terms of just being able to play 17 games, but that's one of those things you won't really know until he gets injured. He's just a tiny guy playing a position that gets hit every single time he touches the football. It's not really Bucky's fault. But I have a lot of confidence in the entire Bucs running back.
Right.
Sean Tucker, as we know, NFC Offensive Player of the Week against the Saints. I think some of these guys would be, Rachaad White is RB2, but Rachaad White would be a starter on half the other teams in the league.
No doubt.
I think Sean Tucker would be RB2 on half the other teams in the league. And I really like Josh Williams out of LSU as well. There's a reason they kept him on the 50-man roster. He's not on the practice squad. They kept 4 running backs. So I'd love for Bucky to play the entire season. I think it's important we have to factor in that, he didn't really become the starter until a couple of games into last season. So there wasn't as much wear and tear on him. But he's always making guys miss. I think if he plays 17 games, he'll far exceed 1,000 yards. He had 1,100 yards last year. I think he'll far exceed it. Do I expect him to play 17 games? No. I wouldn't be surprised if he missed a game or two. But I think they're well equipped with Rashad, Sean Tucker, and even Josh Williams if he has to play to really pick up the slack if Bucky isn't available.
Yeah, I rode Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Bucky Irving, and Mike Evans to my fantasy football championship last year. So I want to thank those guys for being able to do that. The wide receiver position. Now we know it, Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan going to be out for a little while. Looking at Mike Evans, man, that Emeka Ibuka pick just looks better and better by the day, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think this is a great opportunity for Emeka Ibuka to quickly establish himself in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year. especially because when you look at it, it typically goes to the quarterback that plays best as a rookie, but you really only have Cam Ward. We'll see how long it takes for the Giants to go to Jackson Dart.
You
but
saw he got named
opinion,
you see he got named QB2 today.
He did. Yes, I did see that. So it's coming sooner rather than later. But, even if Jackson Dart doesn't start playing until like week 7, that still gives Emeka Buka a lot of time. And sure, there's a lot of other great candidates. Ashton Genty, Luther Burden from the Bears, Ted McMillan on the Panthers. Like there are other, candidates and examples. But to me, one thing that will be like a great decider and a great factor is if he's putting up production quickly and early, people are going to be on his radar right away. The Bucs are going to be a winning team and make the postseason and hopefully win the division. I think typically those awards go to players on winning teams and they do losing teams. And you got that Monday night game against the Houston Texans in week 2. So if he pops off in that game, you're already having a guy that's wide receiver 2, carbon copy of Chris Godwin, and putting up great production. I know it's crazy. He's never played a game, but I'm very high on Emeka Buka. I love that the Bucs have some gadget players with Tez Johnson and Cameron Johnson as well. I think Sterling Shepard will play a serviceable role. I don't love it for 17 games, but for the first month, I think Sterling Shepard as your wide receiver 3 is not too bad of a spot for him, especially given his chemistry with Baker Mayfield. And of course, you have Mike Evans, who's the greatest offensive player in Bucs history. And he's been in this situation before. Like I've been asked about, well, aren't teams just going to, turn their attention to Mike? And I'm like, yeah, but they did that last year too, and he still got over 1,000 yards despite missing 3 games. So I think more of this downfield attack that the Bucs will have in the passing game that they didn't have as much last year, I think it benefits Mike even more. So the injuries suck. It certainly, I think, could lead to some setbacks or growing pains, if you will, early on in the season. But ultimately, I think this offense will still be averaging 30 points per game when it's all said and done at the end of the season.
I want to ask you about the downfield passing game because that's one thing that I don't 100% like know how much we're going to see that, like especially early on in the season. You're down your left tackle. You're going to make sure that you help protect him. You did a great job running. You have a play caller where it's his first time doing it in the National Football League. So should we temper our expectations on seeing those down, shots down the field at least early on in the season? Because again, you don't have Godwin, you don't have McMillan. So I know that was a topic of, a discussion early on in the year of like, hey, we want to push the ball down the field. You want to push the ball down the field. Well, if Baker's, constantly chucking the ball 40 yards down the field and he has to sit and he has to let those routes develop, you don't want to do that with a guy that's not your normal left tackle. So how do you think they're going to be able to find that balance? Is that something that maybe they'll grow into as the year goes on? Or do you think right out of the gates, they'll be able to try to, go for those deep shots?
They're going to have some of their moments to take those deep shots, but I think it'll certainly take a month before they really get into that groove of taking more of those shots. And of course, whenever Tristan Wirfs comes back, that plays a huge factor into all of it. But I truly think early on, you're going to see a ton of screens from this team in many different ways. It's not just going to be to the running back. It's not just going to be like, hey, all the way to the sideline, bam, screen. Like they're going to be very creative with it, and they're going to run the football a lot. And that's why it was interesting with Baker's overall passing yards total. Before I even looked at it, I thought it was going to be around, 4,000, like what he threw last year. And I was like, I don't know if I'd take 4,000, but it's at 3,800, which to me gives you more of a reason to go for it than if it was, 4,000. So I think it'll take a good month until you see some more of those down shots. And it'll take it game by game. And, if someone's wide open, you obviously got to go for it. But Mike's a downfield guy. The Bucs were doing it in training camp. They did it in the preseason too. Now, obviously not all the starters were playing and that stuff, but you also can't be too conservative at the same time. So I say after that Eagles game is when the Bucs are really going to let it rip. It just might take a little bit of time and a little bit of like self-scouting and understanding what they are as a team with the current product that they have.
Where do you think Jameis goes? Do you think he stays with the Giants?
Man, I hope Jameis gets an opportunity to play somewhere. And I don't want injuries on anyone, but the league is better when Jameis is in it than when he's going and playing. So I hope he gets an opportunity to play on a team that thinks they have a chance to fight for a playoff spot and they want like an actual proven quarterback. I think there's a spot for Jameis somewhere. I don't know necessarily where off the top of my head. Honestly, I know Tyrod Taylor's injured for a little bit, but Jameis to the Jets.
Yeah.
If Tyrod's out, and Justin Fields obviously is a mobile quarterback that could get banged up with the amount that he runs. I think Jameis to the Jets is not the worst idea. Plus, he doesn't have to move that far, which is pretty good. I could see him back in New Orleans. I think that would make a ton of sense for New Orleans.
That's the one spot I was looking at too. Maybe the Rams backing up Matthew Stafford. I know they have
revived Baker's career,
right? I mean, think about it. Like, I would try to go to a team like that. I mean, does he go to it? What if he went to it like San Francisco or something? Like, just get into a good place with some good play callers, and he's just such a good positive energy, right? So I mean, could do
he's
a lot
worse. He's unbelievable to watch.
Big Jameis guy. All right, before I let you go, your thoughts on Clash in Paris? Your guy John Cena. He obviously he has 8 dates left. The 8th, or this one coming up on Friday in Chicago. CM Punk is going to be there. I wonder if there's going to be some like little cross stitching there. Will we see Brock Lesnar? Because we haven't seen him since he came out and F5'd them. So what do you think about John Cena there in the match with Logan Paul and what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I only caught the tail end of Clash in Paris. So I saw some of Cena, and then I saw all of the Fatal 4-Way. Seemed like everyone loved the Cena match. The crowd was insane, which was awesome to see. I'm glad John Cena won. There's not really a reason for him to lose until like maybe his last match. So looks like he played the hits. I legitimately thought John Cena was like hurt because the way he pinned Logan Paul, it wasn't like your typical like going over the guy, lifting the leg and everything. He like he put maybe a finger on Logan Paul to pin him. But it seemed like everyone loved it. Glad to see all the praise that he's getting. He has to fight Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza because they're going to go big for the first ESPN one. So I don't know. I'm excited for like the surprises of who John Cena is going to fight down the stretch. I think they're kind of doing like the open challenge type of thing besides Brock Lesnar kind of looming there. So every time he's out there, it's like, okay, who's going to step up to John Cena? I like that kind of ending everything out. I thought the Fatal 4-Way was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
The swerve with Becky Lynch coming out, wasn't thinking of it, but it makes total sense given that Seth and Becky are married. I didn't watch Raw, but I guess they're kind of putting her into the group.
Bro, she smacked
I saw her smack CM Punk.
Wow.
I don't really care about CM Punk and AJ Lee, but if people want AJ Lee back, that's awesome. Some of the storylines, man, are just getting too much of the same. It's like, all right, this guy's going to run out, screw him over. We're going to write this person off of TV, and let's do the same thing over and over and over again. So I think they need a little bit of a shakeup of the storylines and stuff like that. But bringing in AJ Lee, I think, will certainly be a new wrinkle to that storyline. And again, it's all about John Cena and the last couple of dates he has. So.
Yeah, it certainly is. And Logan Paul did the zigzag, the Dolph Ziggler move, and John Cena did the Styles Clash. He did the Cesaro move too. So these guys that he isn't going to be able to wrestle, don't be surprised if he does like a Big E move, right? Like the big ending or something like that. He's going to be able to show some love to guys that he's, not able to wrestle. So
will he do the people's elbow?
Yeah. And The Rock's. Did you see The Rock?
I saw he lost a ton of muscle, whatever.
Bro,
but also he's gonna win an Oscar as well. So
he looks sick. He looks like there's something, but you never know, man. Like method actors, and you just don't know in Hollywood. Like he could be playing a part. We think these guys look terrible, and they come out and they make a freaking $500 million movie. You never know. He is the one and only Matt Matera. You can see him all the time. Pewter Report, real quick. I wanted to 4:00 today. NFC South preview with our guy Greg Allman. You got the Bucks and Falcons preview tomorrow at 4. Thursday Trench Talk at 4:00. Pewter pregame show, Pewter game day show, Bucks Falcons post game podcast. They've got it all, and you also brought somebody new on board, haven't you?
Gonna join me for the Pewter game day show, Daniel Morales. Excited to have him on. He's been a fan of Pewter Report for a while, and he's put out some cool Bucks content as well. So he's going to be joining the team, and we'll see what he's got. But excited to have him on.
That's right. Big shoes to fill, buddy. I've been there before. I've been on that show before. So congratulations to Daniel Morales. Again, follow our guys, Pewter Report, at Pewter Report, pewterreport.com. Matty Ford, Matty Matera, the one and only. You can see him, the last real champion in Tampa Bay sports media. There he is. Matt, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. You're the best. Talk to you later.
Pal. The man. Matt Matera, love that guy. Again, when I say, about the people, Matt's one of those guys. Always a pleasure, man. Always great to talk to him. Just a knowledgeable guy, and climbing up the ranks, baby. Climbing up the ranks over there at Pewter Report. Doing great job as always. Killing it, man. Just a great guy. All right. So I don't really like talking about Dallas Cowboys, anything involved with Dallas, right? But we're going to talk about this. Excuse me. All right. So when it comes to Micah Parsons, right? He was a limited participant on Monday because of a back injury that his agent, David Mulligetta, has said has been treated with anti-inflammatories and could require additional treatment for him to play in the Packers season opener against the Lions on Sunday. Now, it's so funny how people want to bash trades when great players get traded. We saw it, ironically enough, in Dallas when Luka Doncic got traded, and now we saw it again in Dallas with Micah Parsons being traded. But you just don't trade great players for no reason. And I think that's what's hard for people to kind of wrap their head around. And you may look at certain situations and say they didn't get enough back. I mean, blah, blah, blah. You got 2 first-round picks from Micah Parsons, regardless of what other costs of other trades have been. And you get Kenny Clark. That's 30. And this is a guy that's going to be able to clog up the middle and give you an opportunity for other guys to do work. But if you're 26 years old, like Micah Parsons is, and you're already dealing with a back injury, do I want to pay that guy to be the highest paid player in the game? Hell no. Hell no. And I can't believe I'm defending Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. But I don't fault them for not giving him his money. Give Dak his money. Give CeeDee Lamb his money. I'm not paying Micah Parsons that amount of money. You're not paying guys for what they've already done. You're paying for what they're going to do. Yes, at times you want to see guys get taken care of. I understand that. But at the end of the day, okay, you have to make sure that when you're paying these guys this amount of money, that the guy is going to be there for as much of the contract as humanly possible. And at 26 years old, you're already dealing with a back injury. I don't fault Jerry Jones and the Cowboys for having pause. I don't fault the Dallas Mavericks for trading Luka. Luka's a guy that doesn't play great defense, has shown that his weight fluctuates up and down. He's a great offensive player, but I mean, how many singularly talented offensive players have won championships in the last 2 decades? It's very few. You got to play good defense. You got to have good guys around you. If your best player isn't your hardest worker, are you going to really achieve what you want to achieve? I mean, Dallas probably looks at it as, and Mavericks, I'm saying, and look at it as like, we may have gotten as far as we can with Luka Doncic. Okay. Should they have gotten more in the deal? No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But the fact that they traded him, I didn't hate that. Same thing here with Micah Parsons. I know I'm in the minority of saying this. Look at what he's been able to do. There's a few guys that can rush the passer like that. I get that. But you're looking at that solely based on what he has done. I look at Micah Parsons, and I think to myself, am I going to pay a guy $40 million that I don't know if he's going to be here on the field? Is he going to play 9 games, 10 games when your team is struggling to compete as it is? Go get 2 pass rushers and another offensive lineman and a weapon for Dak with that same amount of money. You're not – listen, Dallas wasn't making the playoffs this year with Micah Parsons. So why not trade him? Instead of screwing yourself over not just for this year, but for next year too. And the year after that. And the year after that. Listen, you can say all these things about Jerry Jones and you're going to be right in a lot of the – but I mean, he's a shrewd businessman. And you know a bad investment when you see it. and he doesn't trust Micah Parsons. I don't blame him. As good as Micah has been, I wouldn't feel comfortable making him the highest paid defensive player. Buyer beware. Buyer beware when it comes to a guy like that. So I think Dallas, and I hate to say it, I think in the long run, it might actually work out for them. All right. Flipping the script. Coming up now, we're going to talk about Bill Belichick. Let's start off with whatever the hell happened last night. And again, we're so wrapped up into the pageantry of things. Look at, oh my gosh, look, LT was there. Oh my gosh, look at that. Michael Jordan was there. Oh my, who cares? And I love Lawrence Taylor, my favorite football player from the beginning to the end, to the day I die. The greatest football player, in my opinion, that has ever been. Doesn't matter that he's at this game. It has nothing to do with anything. Give me Sonny Dykes and TCU 7 days a week, 5 times on Saturday, 10 on Sunday. You should have seen that coming. North Carolina's not good. Bill Belichick's not. Is he really invested into what's going on here? He said they got outplayed and they got outcoached. How could that happen? How could you, as one of the greatest football coaches of all time, get outcoached? Wow, man. Is he going to last the season? I hope so. And I hope he turns it around because it's just 1 week. But, man, all this pomp and circumstance and everything. And for those surprised that the attention was on Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels, would you born yesterday? Of course it was going to be. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. It shouldn't be. If that's a surprise to you, that's more about you than them. It's going to be a long season in Chapel Hill. LSU Clemson was another one of those games. This was my second favorite game from the weekend. I'm not counting USF. My first was Ohio State and Texas. We're going to talk about that in a second. But I liked LSU and Clemson because this is an opportunity for Brian Kelly, who is another guy that's much maligned. And I didn't really love what I saw from Garrett Nussmeier early, but the veteran leadership of the kid. He's been around. I love the way that he was able to change his arm angle to keep the defenders from knocking the passes down. LSU was balling, man. They just grinded it out. It was just a good football game altogether. I like what I saw. And good on Dabo Swinney. Like this, again, this loss doesn't hurt either one of them. It really doesn't. Go out there, take care of your schedule and conference play. Listen, at the end of the day, we could be looking at Clemson at some point in the season like 7-1, and you could look at LSU at 5-3. It's not going to change what happened in week 1, but at the end of the day, we know what the difference in schedules between these two teams. Cade Klubnik, I thought, The discussion going into the season was with him and Drew Aller coming back, Penn State, the advantage that those guys have in comparison to a lot of teams in the top 10, 15 that have new quarterbacks. I wasn't overly impressed with Cade. I really wasn't. I didn't walk away from that game going, oh, wow, guy's going to be a problem. 19 incompletions. Didn't really like it. But a big message from Brian Kelly, who just seemingly loses his first game every single year. But he was able to have his guys ready. Clemson does not lose when they're up at the half. And LSU just battles back. And it was a solid football game. And the Tigers, listen, you got to tip your hat. But we know how much more difficult it gets for them. You say that about every team in the SEC. After a matchup with Louisiana Tech, then home to Florida. 2 weeks later, go to Ole Miss. And then home to South Carolina, and then they have Texas A&M, Alabama, and they finish the season later on with Oklahoma. So we'll see about Garrett Nussmeier. But with that being said, what Heather Dinich is saying, that LSU should be the number 1 team in the country, I'll have what she's having, whether that's drink or smoke, whatever. That's crazy. Devin, North Carolina has the smallest staff in college football. Sounds like a personal problem. I know that blue pills for stuff like that. Sorry, Bill. They don't have any analysts, QCs, or GAs. I read something on that a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, dude, you go to a game. Just go to a college football game and see how many people are patrolling the sidelines. And I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about, just like Devin brings up, analysts, quality control guys, graduate assistants, guys that are there's just so many of them. I went to the USF game and I was just mesmerized. I was like, holy smokes, more and more and more people filing out of the locker room to go out to the field with our guy DJ Shism on the 1s and 2s playing them out to the field. Just like, damn, man, you have the resources. This is college football. Boom, go out there and do it. But, you have to, if you're Bill Belichick, the only way that it's going to work is if you have an open mind. It didn't work in New England when you thought that the same old shit was going to work after Brady. Got tired, got old. And that's why eventually you just moved on. You go to North Carolina, you're thinking it's a breath of fresh air. And I got to admit, I'm a little surprised because I thought that Bill Belichick did a smart thing by putting himself out there, going into the media, being on ESPN, going on Pat McAfee, because there are signs of Bill Belichick that we saw. Remember when the NFL put out their 75 list or 100 list when he was there with Chris Collinsworth, and they were bringing in the LTs and the Joe Montanas and the Ray Lewis of the world, and they were talking football, and you're like, Bill Belichick's got a pretty cool personality when he's not a fucking curmudgeon. He just seems like a cool dude. Like, lighten up. You got a girlfriend that's 24? Come on, dude. Chill. Have some fun. Be smart. Be gregarious. Be energetic. Be entertaining. Have an open mind. Just seems like the same old stuff for Bill. And if he doesn't change, then unfortunately, you're going to see North Carolina in 2025, much like you saw the New England Patriots just 3-4 years ago towards the end of his tenure. My favorite game of the weekend was Texas and Ohio State. I don't like games let me say this. Just because the game's not 45-42 doesn't mean I don't like the game. I like pitchers duels every once in a while. I like a struggle. I like to see two heavyweights just going at it. 4th down stops, pass breakups on incredible plays where guys are diving just to tip the ball away. Like, that's football, man. That's football. It's not where it's just up and down the entire time and the defenses are like sieves. No, and that was a traditional football game as you are going to see. 14-7. Number 3 Ohio State defends their home turf, defends their national championship win from last year with a 1 touchdown score, margin of victory over the Texas Longhorns. I really like Ohio State lost so many guys. Was it 7 guys to the draft? And they look even better. Are they a finished product? No, they're not. And I'm definitely in the minority of saying this, but I kind of like what I saw from Arch Manning. I kind of like what I saw from him because there was a lot of struggles. There was a lot of struggles for a guy that it clearly looked like his first big game. But imagine your first big game and Arch's first big game at the shoe against Ohio State, and you only lost by 7. You change a couple of those throws. We're having a different contest. Got stopped on 4th and goal from the 1. Stopped twice on 4th and goal. One of them where the ball hit the receiver's hands. Tough catch. That's one of those things. Could he have made it? Yes. Should he have? That's probably a little bit too tough. There's also another 3rd down and 5 play where the pass is a little behind him, but if the receiver just tries to catch a ball, maybe with 2 hands, or maybe just, there's Mingo is his best receiver. Like, even though it wasn't the greatest pass, like, he'll probably tell you that he should have made that grab. I like down the stretch that Sark opened it up a little bit. I like that Arch started pushing the ball down the field. I was very impressed with the plays that he made with his legs. I mean, think about it. Ohio State's got a really good defense. Arch was beating them to the edge and getting around the edge and getting some big yards. I like that there was some design runs. Sometimes I think you try so early, and we saw it with Byron Brown in USF. This is why I think probably after watching that, you can kind of see with Arch. Coach Golish tried to do this early on in the USF game. Get the ball out of his hands quick, a bunch of screens, just get into a rhythm, right? It's almost like one of those things where in basketball, go to the lane, get a foul, get to the free throw line, see the ball go through the hoop, right? Get there before you start jacking up threes and you're 0 for 5 from deep and you're like, the hell did I do? Go to the basket, get fouled, go to the free throw line, see the ball going through the hoop a little bit, wet your whistle a little bit before you go for it. I think sometimes what happens, and you just don't know because you don't want to throw too much onto their plate. I think it was a little bit of baby steps for Arch early. It didn't work out. It didn't work out. And it disabled him from getting any kind of momentum. It disabled him from really pushing the ball down the field. And then when you have nothing to lose in the fourth, when he finally gets an opportunity to do it, then you saw what the kid's all about. I think he's going to be just fine. I don't think that loss hurts Texas at all. Losing that loss is going to look better as the year goes on because of how well I think Texas and Ohio State are both going to play. So I have no issues with that whatsoever. I was impressed with Arch. I really was, man. You got to look between the numbers. You got to watch the game. And I even watched back to some of the highlights today and just to kind of reinforce what I was thinking. And I think he's going to have a great year for Texas. Now, is he a generational talent? He could be. His arm slot drops a little bit lower than I think you would want to see. But you could say that about Patrick Mahomes too, right? Not always over the top, a little bit of a baseball background. We'll see. I mean, you got to be able to bounce back. You got to be able to put that behind you. But for all the people jumping on Arch saying that he sucks and he's not going to be good and cracking on people for calling him generational talents, like he's a Manning. Like if there's anybody that's going to figure it out, if there's anybody that's going to go forward and, learn from what his best football is not going to be late August in 2025. No doubt about it. You trust the pedigree with that kid. You just have to. And he's got some talent. And he's the fastest one at all of them. So you can thank his mom for that one. All right. Last thing for me, a little bit of a clash in Paris. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was really cool. I thought the card was really good. I thought it was one of those PLEs where you look top to bottom and you're like, I don't know if there was really any bad matches. I really, really enjoyed it. Starting with the main event, when you're surprised, but you kind of understand the rationale, it's unbelievable. And that's what happened. We were like, oh, could Becky join the Vision? Could she? Maybe. All of a sudden, somebody comes out when Punk is about to hit Seth Rollins with the second GTS. Boom. Shot to the gonads. And we come to find out. I thought Austin Theory, maybe it would have been him. That's the new addition to the Vision. It wasn't. It was Becky Lynch. And some people are wondering if she was talking as they were going down the ramp. We're the Vision. We're the Vision. We're the Vision. So, she's in. John Cena and Logan Paul. Listen, I love watching Logan Paul do his thing because he's a legitimate heel. He pisses people off. People don't think he deserves it. You may not think he deserves it, but he's earned it. Every single match that guy is in, he performs. He's a legit heel, man. He's not a cool heel. People don't like to cheer for him. He's unique. And he gets it, man. He gets wrestling. He is a really good wrestler. And I know people are like, they get bugged out because he's not a guy that's just the way it goes. Logan Paul, fine, right? You may not like Logan Paul because he's not a traditional wrestler. He's one of the best doing it right now. They're not going to put him in there with high-profile guys time and time again if he's not able to rise to the level of what they do in the ring. This isn't, a one-off. This isn't a Bad Bunny or a Jelly Roll, and that's not slighting those guys because they put in a ton of work to be able to get in there and to be able to do their thing. But Logan Paul continuously puts on great matches with the elite of the WWE. That doesn't happen by accident. And again, I know it pisses people off, but don't hate the player, hate the game. Who's the number one actor in the game right now? Who's making more money than anybody on the silver screen? The Rock. Dude's never taken an acting class. It is what it is, man. You could hate it, you could love it, but you better learn to live with it because it's reality. And Logan Paul is just going to keep getting bigger and better. And he's just going to piss more and more people off because of who he is, because of his past, because he's not a traditional wrestler. but he's going to be WWE champion one day. So you better start. You just come to that realization right now. You just better come to that grip with that reality, because it's going to happen one day. And I love it, because he's just an old school traditional heel. Not one of these cool heels where certain people cheer for him. No, he's a bad guy. Wrestling is the best when it's good guy against bad guy. And Logan Paul is a bad guy. And I know it pisses you off, but he's a great wrestler, and he's only going to get better, and he's going to continue to get more opportunities. It's the nature of the beast. Live with it, people. Live with it. Also, the Donnybrook match between Rusev and Sheamus. The ending was a little wonky because it kind of just came out of nowhere, but it was like, obviously it was tough. But man, that was a slugfest. What a match. What a freaking match between those two guys. That spot going through the barrel there. Oh God, that was nuts. Or the box from on top of the barrels. Becky Lynch and Nikki Bella. I mean, Nikki Bella, it is what it is. I've never been a huge fan of her in-ring stuff. She missed a huge disaster kick off the rope. That's probably on Becky Lynch, but I don't know. I don't see the appeal of Nikki Bella after all these years. I don't. The tag team match, Wyatt Six and Street Profits. I think it's time. I think it's time to split up the Street Profits. I really do. I think it's time for Montez Ford to kind of spread your wings, bro. If you're going to ever be a WrestleMania main eventer, you got to start. He's got to start. And no disrespect to Dawkins. Maybe he meets up with somebody else, joins another faction, but these two have to go their separate ways, because the Street Profits were at their best when they were doing, the solo cups. And now it's just like, I don't know what they're all about. Are they babyface? Are they heel? They were with Lashley for a while. I don't understand what they're all about. It's time for a fresh coat of paint for both of those guys. They need to go away and come back, or they need to do something, because this is just not working. And of course, the show started off with Bronson Reed and Roman Reigns in a very hard-hitting affair. I thought that was a really good match. Roman goes over, but then gets the absolute shit beat out of him. Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker with the spear right there on top of the tables. I mean, legit. I mean, just a tsunami off the top rope. You think wrestling's fake, fine, but you're taking a splash off the top rope from a guy that's 350 pounds. That shit don't tickle. It don't. The next night, last night, Monday Night Raw, you see, the tag team match. It ends with, Jay getting messed up, him and LA Knight. And then you see Jimmy come out. So you bring Jimmy and Jay back together. So we're going to recycle that storyline. The thing that I loved about the night was a couple of things. Love to see, Dominic Mysterio over AJ Styles. What a great match there. Also, Io Sky and what's going on there with Asuka and Kairi Sane. That's a good storyline that we haven't really seen much. We'll talk about that with Matt Matera. A little different storyline, shake it up. I really like that one. And then finally, the CM Punk Seth Rollins thing. Becky slapped him over 20 times. Does that mean AJ Lee comes back? Maybe. Does that mean that Bayley comes out on behalf of CM Punk, or maybe Rhea Ripley? Something's got to give. But she smacked the taste out of his mouth multiple times. So maybe AJ Lee returns on Friday. We don't know. We saw Becky Lynch on Friday, or last Friday, wrestle in the main event on SmackDown, and CM Punk, it's in Chicago. So we'll see what happens right there. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for me today. A big thank you to our buddy, Matt Matera, for joining us on the program. We got Logan Robinson joining us from Bucks Game Day later on this week. We also have Eileen Natchuk from WFLA going to join us. Alexa Russo from Tampa Catholic, the new Tampa Catholic softball coach, which was announced over the weekend. So now Paulie Russo, the baseball coach, Alexa Russo. It's a family affair there at Tampa Catholic. We'll have Alexa on probably tomorrow, and we got some more irons in the fire as well. Make sure you guys follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. A big thank you to our guy right here. Boom. Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, residential commercial needs. They got you. 813-244-0956. And a big thank you to our guy, Chan Leonard, as well. Go Knowles, go Jay Recher podcast. All right, guys. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow right here at noon on the Jay Recher podcast time.